law would provide motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities expanded access to mechanical data related to vehicle maintenance and repair, more specifically wireless data, known in the industry as telematics. So manufacturers who want to sell in Massachusetts would have to equip any motor vehicle, model year 2022 or newer, with what's called an open access data platform. That means owners could see their own mechanical data on a mobile app, and they would have the option to share that same data with independent repair facilities or independent dealerships of their choosing. And those shops would also then be able to send commands to the vehicle for repair, maintenance, and diagnostic testing. On the S side of this issue, I'm joined by Tommy Hickey, director of the Right to Repair Coalition, and on the no side, Conor Yunits, spokesperson for the Coalition for Safe and Secure Data. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Tommy, you're the yes side. Briefly, tell us why people should be voting yes.
Sure. So in 2012, I hope Massachusetts voters remember, we voted in favor of the right to repair at 86%. It is the highest passing ballot initiative in Massachusetts history. Mandated that independent repair shops and dealerships get the same information. But there was a carve out in the law. Technology has obviously evolved. There was a carve out for wireless communications, a system called telematics. In this year, 2020, 90% of new cars will have this telematic capabilities, giving the car manufacturers a monopoly on the repair market. This ballot initiative would close that loophole and give owners all direct access to their wireless information.
Conor, why should people vote no?
Tommy mentioned the ballot question in 2012. There was a carve-out for telematics in that ballot question, but that ballot question is not the current law in Massachusetts. The existing law was passed in 2013. It brought together both that previous ballot question with another law on the books, and the existing law in Massachusetts ensures that all telematics information that's necessary for diagnosis and repair must be provided to dealer repair shop. It's already covered under this current law, and everything else is an expansion of access to data grabbed by retail auto parts suppliers.
Conor, I want to read from the argument you guys provided to the Secretary of State for the voter booklet. Question one has nothing to do with fixing cars. Question one, as you said, is a data grab by third parties who want to gather your personal vehicle information and access it remotely, including location data in real time. So should we assume, since there's not one word about sharing data or independent dealers, that the people behind the vote no are just selflessly concerned about my privacy? No, I'm serious, by the way. And the sharing of data is not a problem for them at all if the privacy issues were addressed?
The no side is fully funded by automakers. I'll be very clear on that. And it's fully funded by automakers because question one represents a threat to their vehicle safety systems and their vehicle systems. So the first thing that question one does is it expands the definition of mechanical data to be anything related to the diagnosis or repair. That's an intentionally broad term that can be applied to anything in the vehicle.
Is it an intentionally broad term, Tommy? You wrote it.
No, listen, we fix cars for a living. Car manufacturers always want independent repairs at the mercy of them and the dealership. This is about all the information necessary to fix your car. We believe the owner bought the car and they should have direct access to that.
So, Conor, back to you. The language that you say is unnecessarily broad reads that the data is any vehicle-specific data, including telematics, used for or otherwise related to the diagnosis, repair, or maintenance of the vehicle. What's not clear about that? What's not limiting about that? It's mechanical data. It's not location data or personal data.
It's the otherwise related to. It's an incredibly broad term that could be applied to anything. And look, the existing law excludes navigation data explicitly. Question one does not. Question one eliminates that exclusion. Question one, if it really wasn't about location data, it would have taken about 8 words for it to say nothing will apply to location.
But if it really was about location data, I read the Attorney General's summary, which is neutral. She mentions the term mechanical data 6 times by my count, never once mentions location data or personal data, or as you call it, location data in real time. She's not on either side. If there was a threat, why didn't she target it?
Again, the bill expands the definition of mechanical data. And look, there's precedent here. This same effort was made in California. In that effort, they did specifically say GPS location data. They learned their lesson. They lost. So when they came back to Massachusetts, they broadened it out so that they could make this case that it wasn't about location.
Tommy, do you have no concern about my data being secure? Is your position, is there 100% off base the vote no people, or is there a concern and you just consider it to be minor?
No, remember, this is diagnostic and repair information that independent repairers are currently getting through the OBD port. This information is already protected in ways and is already accessible. It's now becoming wireless, just like every other technology in our life. We want that same information wirelessly, just as the car manufacturers already do and share with their dealerships.
So why don't you do exactly what Conor suggested, is be explicit about what it excludes so he couldn't make the argument he's making, and so the voter could be assured that he isn't right?
Because we wrote it in a way to say you need all the information necessary to diagnose, maintain, and repair the car. You do not need GPS information. You do not need personal information for that. And we call on the car manufacturers to create this platform. They should not create this platform with GPS and personal information. If I had to write a bill with all the things I didn't want, I think it'd be a pretty long list.
You know, Tommy, getting to your argument submitted to the Secretary of State, we passed, as you said, the first right to repair law in 2012, but as new cars become more computerized, auto manufacturers are using a loophole to restrict access, etc. You yourself have admitted, Tommy, in interviews I've read, that the competitive threat is 5 to 10 years away. So if the threat is not right now, why are you spending millions of dollars? It suggests that there may be another agenda here other than just a level playing field.
Well, I've admitted that it's going to get increasingly worse, but it is starting now. And remember, when we did this in 2012, we were late. Independent repair shops went under. Consumers had to pay more. We see models right now, 2020 models, independent repairers cannot fix, whether it's firewalls over the OBD port or missing wireless codes. It's happening today in model year 2020, and it's going to get increasingly worse as we move to electric cars without OBD ports and more wireless technology that isn't covered under the law.
But how soon is the threat real? You said 5 to 10 years in an interview. People who see a threat 5 to 10 years away usually don't spend tens of millions of dollars when they could still lobby the legislature to do what they're hoping to achieve.
Well, as I said, in 2020, up to 90% of cars have these capabilities right now. This calls for model year 2022. I think you can imagine how much technology will be in those vehicles.
You know, Conor, going back to your argument for a second, you focus on domestic. A similar proposal failed in California after the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault warned from this information a third party such as a sexual predator could stalk or harm victims. And it's amongst the most, I'd say, powerful of your television ads as well on that issue. But once again, as you admitted a few minutes ago, the California bill, which I believe failed, explicitly included location data. At best, you're inferring that this does, but there's nothing specific. So isn't that a little misleading to the voter?
It's misleading to the voter that the Auto Care Association, which wrote question 1, has been saying they don't want location data, and then going around the country showing a mock-up of what they want the app to look like. And then their version of the app, they have maps, they have location data, they have behavioral data. So their $21 million that they've invested here in Massachusetts is telling the voters one thing, which is different from what they're telling consumers around the country.
We'll get Tommy's response to that, but you didn't answer my question. Isn't it misleading to be quoting a California organization about a failed bill that explicitly included location data, which I agree is scary, but this bill does not explicitly do the same thing?
No, I don't think it's misleading at all because, again, there is an explicit provision taking this out of the current law that is not present in the question.
Tommy, how about the claim that Conor made a minute ago about the organizations that are behind your side of this question pouring millions of dollars into it as well, parading around the country about what the app will provide? How do you respond to what he said?
Whatever the Auto Care Association gets involved in at the federal level or in Europe, and Europe is far ahead of us in terms of how we deal with wireless technology, is not this Ballot initiative. I mean, we just talked about this California piece. This is not the California piece. The California piece wanted real-time geolocation. It wanted access by third parties directly. That's not this initiative. This initiative gives car owners directly the information generated by their car for diagnostic repair and allows them to authorize an independent repair. That's not the legislation that was in California.
Conor, let's go back to the first question I asked you off what Tommy just said. Why shouldn't I have access to that data any way I want. And if I am willing, even if you're right, if I am willing to put myself at greater risk than I'm currently in, because the automakers have the data now, so I assume we got to trust them, why shouldn't I be able to make that decision by myself and not have you make it for me?
We don't disagree on that point. A lot of automakers already are making this information available. They're doing it in a very secure way where the information is encrypted. It goes through OEM servers and it goes directly to the consumer. There's never direct access to the vehicle. There's not the ability to upload code to the vehicle, and it's done in a way that protects the consumer while also giving them choice. That's the way automakers are moving. It's moving on a pace where this can be tested and safe.
Tommy, why didn't you give the legislature more time to do this in a more measured sort of way rather than having a multi-million-dollar TV ad battle that I think you'd both have to admit is confusing a lot of voters in Massachusetts?
We would very much have loved to deal with this in the legislature. We filed a bill in the first month of the session of 2019, January of 2019. In order to be eligible for the ballot, you have to apply with the Attorney General's office by August of 2019. Get the 100,000 signatures. We didn't have a hearing until January of 2020. The car manufacturers managed to block this in the legislature and refused to sit down with us.
Conor, let me get back to where I started with you, too. Assuming that your fears about the protection of the data were allayed, would the automakers be comfortable with the independents, the small guys and gals, the small businesses having access to this information?
The concern is not around the local mechanics. The local mechanics already have access to this data now. As Tommy said, when you bring your car into the shop, that's what the current law protects.
But that's a plug-in. That's a plug-in. Is there any reason they wouldn't have access to the wireless data? Are you opposed to that, or just concerned allegedly about privacy data, sensitive data?
We're concerned that question one opens a gateway into vehicle computers that can be exploited by bad actors. It lowers the bar for entry.
Okay, so that being the case, what I don't understand in this discussion, from these 10 minutes, it seems to me the major dispute is about what language in the ballot question says and what data it allows to be accessed and what not. So why haven't you two guys, instead of spending tens of millions of dollars, agreed to go to the legislature with your common concern and say, we both want you to amend this language, should it pass? And it seems to me that allays your fears, Conor, and still allows you to get what you need to get. Conor, very quickly, you first. Why not?
In 2012, we tried that, Jim, and there was a bill passed. Both sides agreed, but the question one folks pushed forward anyway and still went forward with their ballot question. There's no reason to believe they would accept the legislative agreement this time either.
Well, but could you draft language that would make you happy, Conor?
These two sides met for 4 years and couldn't reach a conclusion.
But that's not the answer to my question. Is if it turns out your concern is this sensitive data, why don't you draft something about sensitive data, give it to Tommy, see if he buys it, and walk up to Beacon Hill?
I'm sure that will be on the agenda post-election day if this passes.
Tommy, would you do that?
I think the proof is in the pudding. The car manufacturers have a monopoly on the repair market. Why would they ever sit down with us except to do this by law, which is what happened in 2012 until the last hour of the session. So I don't think they'd sit down with us. I don't think they want to give us this information. They have a way to circumvent the 2013 right to repair law right now.
Tommy, Conor, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and good luck on Election Day. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.